live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial, not overly ostentatious studios of 365 Sports here in beautiful New York City. Welcome on in to a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. Obviously right here live on 365 Sports. You can always get at me on Instagram where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Or you can find me on TikTok at the Zach Gelb Show. Where our rant via my page and then also via the 365 Sports TikTok page has been blowing up over Darren Peterson, over Mick Cronin, and the whole incident with the way that he did eject his own player 2 nights ago in Stephen Jamerson, which I just didn't understand whatsoever. And I wasn't all that happy with Mr. Mick Cronin. But we led yesterday's show with college basketball. We'll lead today's show with college basketball. Darren Peterson is on mind. And obviously we've had the next chapter in what has been just a wild, crazy, bizarre season for Kansas with their star player, who is going to most likely be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Kansas has had in their great basketball history 2 number 1 overall picks in the past, Danny Manning, and then also when they did have Andrew Wiggins. So we'll get into that in just a second. But a programming note, joining us at 3 p.m. Eastern time today, 2 p.m. Central, the head football coach at Memphis, Charles Huff, who I'm a huge fan of. He's going to stop by. He was at Marshall where they beat Notre Dame. I was always advocating for him to get a bigger job. And then for whatever reason, the Marshall thing split, and he ended up at Southern Mississippi, who had 1 win 2 years ago, and then he walks in. He got 7 wins in year 1, and the next thing you know, boom, he's the next head football coach at Memphis, with Ryan Silverfield leaving Memphis to go to Arkansas. So we'll reconnect with Coach Charles Huff coming up at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern time today, and then following Charles Huff, we'll continue our offseason kind of storylines and offseason previews. As we did the Raiders yesterday, we go from the first pick in the draft to the second pick in the draft. Jake Asman is going to join us for the Jake Asman Show, and also ESPN New York, and that will be coming your way at 2:30 p.m. Central, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. But Garrett Ross is back in our Waco, Texas studios, and I'm just going to ask you a very simple question here, Garrett Ross.
Yes, sir.
When you look at what transpired last night with Darren Peterson and Kansas, where we've seen this before, where he plays the first half, the second half starts, he's there, or he checks himself at halftime. But last night he checks himself out a few minutes into the second half, where they're playing Oklahoma State. I get it, not the greatest opponent in the world. But in 18 minutes, Darren Peterson put up jaw-dropping numbers. 23 points, was 7 of 12 from the field, 6 of 10 from behind the arc. He was incredible last night. And obviously his contributions early, even though he didn't want to play for pretty much the final 20 minutes, let's call it, they were in enough of a driver's seat where the car didn't crash after that, and Kansas eventually won 81-69. We have been on the different side of the fence with this one.
Yeah.
You have been very adamant that you're done with him. You want nothing to do with him.
Yep.
And I get the argument. I am someone that's looking at it and saying, okay, well, you're paying him either way. Even though he's clearly wearing the pants in this relationship, even though he's the one that's clearly calling the shots, and Bill Self has defended him, and then last night Bill Self kind of lost it, as much as Bill Self is going to lose it, because he knows he doesn't have control on his program right now. He knows this is all Darren Peterson, but you have proven, with him or without him, you've been able to win. And yes, there is that drama, there is that cloud that will hang over, that ominous cloud that will hang over Kansas until their season ends, of just not knowing how far this is going to go. So I'll ask you this simple question. And I know we were fiery yesterday, and I was going off, and I was foaming at the mouth over Mick Cronin. Like, that really did agitate me, what he did to that kid, just knowing the story of Jamerson, who I think his name should be Jamerson. But anyway, with what transpired last night with Darren Peterson, where it was another one of those situations where, all right, at halftime, I'm pulling myself out. Right early on in the second half, I'm cramping. I got to go to the sidelines. I can't play. What do you like? I'll just ask you this: why do you think he's doing this? Like, what would be your answer to that question?
I think somebody, and I don't know who it would be. I don't know if it's an agent. I don't know if it's somebody close to him. I think somebody's in his ear giving him bad advice personally, because you don't consistently do this. If cramping is an issue for you and it's a legitimate issue, then I would want to put in as much time conditioning and stuff to where I could play a whole basketball game without cramping. If my passion and my goal in life is to go and compete at the highest level in the NBA, then I want to do everything in my way possible. And I want to learn and I want to be developed where I could have sustained success in the NBA. And from my perspective, he's not doing that. And I think it's bad information coming from him or from people around him. I'm not 100% certain on that, but that's literally the only thing I can think of is he's got somebody in his ear that's giving him some really bad advice.
Yeah, and he had a legitimate hamstring injury.
Right.
The cramping stuff, this has been now going on, for at least a month?
Yeah, at least a month, yeah.
It feels like, so that is bizarre. Like, when I do this job, I'm not directly comparing it to these instances, but there are things that get talked about. And with my previous experiences, it just kind of goes from the back of the mind to the front of the mind. When Markelle Fultz out of Washington was with the Sixers, it's one of the most bizarre things I've ever covered. The guy forgot how to shoot a basketball. And we go back to it, and the question that I never got an answer on was because he changed people thought before the draft he had to change the way that he shot the basketball.
Right.
So the big question was, did he get injured first and then develop the mental hitch and then change the shot? Or did he change the shot and get injured? And the reason why I bring this up is the mysteriousness of not knowing what the true answer is still the mysteriousness that we're going through here with Darren Peterson, where it's, okay, this isn't making any sense.
No.
Like how the Markelle Fultz situation, I never got clarity, never got the truth on it, never made sense. This is just not making sense. I then also look at Ben Simmons, and it's ironic it's two Sixers.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, let me tell you, petulant, egotistical, and a big sensitive baby.
Yep.
That is as nice as I will be talking about Ben Simmons. That dude had the ego the size of the Atlantic Ocean, and it derailed his basketball career, and then he got in his own head because people wanted him to shoot the basketball more, and he would respond to it on social media, but would never actually in the game, like, take a three-point shot. But when Ben Simmons was in college, his team, like, wasn't winning at LSU.
Oh.
And there was, like, commitment issues, and they didn't make the tourney, and then I think they bailed on the NIT invite.
They bailed on that, yeah.
Yeah, there was always drama around Ben Simmons. And I remember having conversations when I was getting ready for the draft. Like, all right, who cares what happens at LSU? And how, like, people are suddenly saying, all right, who cares what happens at Kansas?
Right.
But look how it turned out for Ben Simmons. Now, I think Darren Peterson is a lot more talented than what Ben Simmons is.
Correct.
But you had people saying that Ben Simmons was going to be the second coming of Magic Johnson when he was a recruit, or when he was at LSU. I never believed that notion, but that's what some people said. So those are like a few instances where you don't want to be associated with anything with Markelle Fultz and with anything with Ben Simmons. But we're sitting here, and you know what it also reminds me of just a year ago?
What's that?
A little Ace Bailey in that draft process, where Ace Bailey was getting horrible advice, and Ace Bailey didn't want to go to Utah, and he ended up in Utah. And the whole thing, how Harper at Rutgers and how Bailey at Rutgers both handled their pre-draft process was completely different. So those are just like three instances. I'm not saying this kid's not going to be good. I'm not saying that he's not going to be the number one overall pick. But when I was seeing this unfold last night with already the way that we talked about it, it did kind of trigger a little feelings of stories that I've covered in the past with Ace Bailey, Ben Simmons, and Markelle Fultz.
I think when you look at the Ben Simmons comparison, the only difference I really see there is I think Darian Peterson is more of a dog. I think he's a better scorer. I think when it comes down to a clutch situation, he wants the ball in his hand. Ben Simmons, dude, going back at LSU, I can't tell you how many times he would drive to the basket, the game's on the line, and he's just dishing it, just doing stupid stuff. And like you don't see that from Peterson. Like when he's on and he's playing, that's one thing. I hate how he's handling it. But if you go back and look at the BYU game, right? Like he went out there to make a point that I'm better than AJ DeBanza and draft me over AJ DeBanza.
And he tapped out at halftime.
And he tapped out at halftime, just like he did last night. He put up ridiculous numbers when he was playing and he was on. And then once he was like, okay, well, I've done everything I need to do for this team to win. And my foresight, then he dips. I think he's a better overall basketball player than Ben Simmons, but I still do not like how he's handling his business.
So I was doing the game for Compass where it was Texas Tech, where he did not have his best game.
No, not at all.
And late in the game, he made two on the road in Lubbock, made two big 3-point shots.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if he reminds me of Ben Simmons, but with the guy that's willing and can actually shoot the basketball. Yeah. So I'll ask you this. What he's doing now, what do you think he's trying to accomplish? Like, you think he's getting bad advice, but what do you think he's trying to accomplish?
I don't know. I at this point, I can't figure it out. I don't. You can't say I'm trying to stay healthy because you're always injured. You can't say that.
And you're playing.
Yeah, you're playing. So I really don't know what he's getting out of it.
Do you think it's just to preserve his body, where he wants to put himself on a minute? Like that would be. And I'll read what Seth Davis had to write in a second, because Seth Davis kind of pushed back on the notion that this is for load management or that this is for the next level. Like right now, it's not hurting his draft stock. Maybe it will. But my theory on this, and just how I view this, and I may be wrong on this, is that someone's telling him, hey, like, you got the money from Kansas. We don't need you to be great at Kansas. Play and then take yourself out and manage the minutes. But it's like, if that was the case, wouldn't you just use the minutes elsewhere and just not go? Like, they beat the number one team in the country this year without him. They don't need him to go beat Oklahoma State. Like, that's where part of me says, it's for load management. Then I'm like, well, then why would he even play the first 18 minutes?
Yeah, if that was the case, he wouldn't play at all. He would have pulled himself like he did against Arizona. I mean,
or at least be more upfront with your coach and be like, hey, coach, I think this is for the best interest of my career is to only play 18 minutes tonight. Use them how you want to use them, but I'm out after I play 18 minutes.
I mean, maybe it's also like the nature of the NBA where the guys just aren't playing on a regular basis, like full games. Maybe he's thinking, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just adapt my body to that nature, which still you got to be in better shape. The court's bigger and all that. I know that he's an elite athlete and that's minor things, but that's the only thing I can think of. I can't fathom how this is unfolding, man. I just don't get it.
All righty, so let's get to Seth Davis, and we'll break this down paragraph by paragraph, because I just think I'm trying to just understand what is the why here, and why is he doing this. So Seth Davis put this out there. Some quick thoughts about the Darren Peterson situation. Some of this is semantics, but words are important. First of all, I don't think this has anything to do with the NBA draft. If anything, his taking himself out of so many games, it would hurt his stock. He's not saving his body or shutting it down to protect himself for the draft. If that were the case, there would be no reason to go to a place like Kansas in the first place. Short of his leg being amputated, he's going to be a top 3 pick and probably still number 1 overall. Garrett, do you believe that this will ultimately impact his draft stock or not?
I don't think so. I think there would be people already, you would hear agents, scouts, teams come out say they don't want no part of him. I don't think it's really going to impact him. I think he's the best player when he's on the court, and he's going to get drafted high. That's the thing, is I don't think it's going to impact him.
And even like right now, the Kings, and I know it's a lottery, they're projected to get the number 1 pick off Tankathon.
Right.
Even if the Kings say, okay, we'll take AJ DeBanza. And then even if the Wizards says we'll take Cameron Boozer, like there's no way whoever's sitting at 3 isn't going to take Darren Peterson.
No, he's not falling that far.
There's some. I think he'll still be the number 1 pick. Maybe he falls to number 2. I do think who gets the pick and how he handles it is going to be important, because if you don't give the right answer in the pre-draft process, and if someone thinks that AJ DeBanza maybe not be better than you, but will be less of a pain in the ass. Maybe they end up taking him. But ultimately, I don't really see him falling past 2, and I would still think he's going to be number 1. But you look at this projected mock draft right now, Darren Peterson, freshman out of Kansas. AJ DeBanza, freshman out of BYU. Cameron Boozer, freshman, obviously out of Duke. Caleb Wilson, who's dealing with that hand injury right now, freshman out of UNC. Kingston Flemings, freshman out of Houston. Mikel Brown, freshman out of Louisville. Keaton Wagler, freshman out of Illinois. Nate Ament is a freshman out of Tennessee. And then Darius Acuff, who was unbelievable last night in that loss for the Razorbacks up against Alabama. Freshman projected to go to the Milwaukee Bucks now with the 9th overall pick. The first 9 picks projected in the NBA draft are all freshmen. So there is a demand and there's a supply of freshmen, but like I don't see how between Boozer, DeBanza, and Peterson, how Peterson is going to even fall to 3. I think there's a chance maybe he could fall to 2, but like to Seth's point, I don't really think this is going to impact his draft stock much.
And I think that's why he continues to do it, because you're getting money. You have all the leverage in the world. It's not going to impact your future. So, like, that's why we continue to see this. I would just be so pissed off if I was Bill Self. It would just drive me insane, dude.
Yeah, well, we'll get to his clip in just a second because I think he's at his boiling point last night. And it's not really what he said. It was just the way that he looked and the somber tone that he gave off of. Yeah. What'd you say?
He's tired of answering it.
Well, yeah, I don't blame him, but this is what he signed up for, and clearly he still thinks that the juice is worth the squeeze. Second, this is from Seth Davis. This is not load management. I know it's semantics, but this is a premeditated, predetermined decision. If he were on a minutes restriction, you wouldn't sit him for the second half. The term is being misapplied. Please cease and desist. This is where I think Seth Davis is just really a pretentious ass at times. Yeah. You want to call it load management. You want to call it a minutes restriction, whatever. It's the tomato.
Yeah.
All right. That's what I think. This is okay. You know what, Seth? This is a minute restriction. That's what this is. So if you don't want to tell me load management, whatever. So here's what Seth Davis says, what's really going on. It's hard to tell. Perhaps this really is what it appears to be, that he has a tender hamstring still, and the issue with cramping still mysteriously so. And he and his team, whoever that is, know that by pushing him through soft tissue injuries, you risk hurting yourself worse and being out for a long period of time. In that sense, it's prudent to be careful given that it's the middle of February. If he does this in a Sweet 16 game, that's a very different matzo ball, is what Seth Davis does say. So I'll ask you this, Garrett. There was a legitimate hamstring injury that he's still recovering from, according to Seth Davis. And the issues with the cramping are still and mysteriously so. I have a tough time believing that he was actually cramping last night.
I'm not buying it, and I don't see how cramping goes together with the hamstring injury. I feel like that's kind of making excuses at this point.
I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to refute that. But how great he was last night in the first 18 minutes. And then he's basically sitting on the wing there, calling for the ball, looking like he's holding in a number 2. Let's be real. Like, those are some signs of cramping. As someone that has cramped before, you are very tense, and it looks like you're holding in a deuce. But to then check himself out of the game and not return, I don't know. Like, is it plausible that he's cramping? Yes.
Yeah.
In my bullshit meter that goes off in my head, I think this is a big dookie. All right. I think it's big bullshit.
And if it's really like, if you're really worried about your hamstring injury, sit out and get healthy for a while.
Yeah.
Just didn't say, you know what? I'm injured. I'm going to get healthy for the draft, or I'm going to get healthy for the tournament, and I'm going to sit out the remainder of Big 12 play because that's when I think it matters the most.
Given this pattern, according to Seth Davis, coupled with his decision not to try to play against Arizona despite feeling ill, it's fair to say this is a bad look and a major distraction for a team that has Final Four potential. If anyone were asking for my advice, which they're not, this is just starting to annoy me, this tweet. I would recommend that Kansas should put Peterson more in front of the cameras and let him explain that he really and truly does want to be playing and be more transparent about how these decisions are being made in the moment. And most importantly, who's advising him? Bill Self is doing his best to explain and when necessary defend his player, but too often he seems as confused about what's going on as the rest of us. You know what's crazy? I'm sure he's done interviews this year.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what Darren Peterson sounds like.
I mean, he's got a good point. I'd put his ass out there and make him answer questions.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is Kansas trying to protect him? Does Darren Peterson just not want to do it? Because that's the thing. I know that you're going to be like, oh, no, you got to throw him out there. These kids have more power now.
I know.
They control the universities. The money's already there for him. And if the kid doesn't want to speak, like what's going to happen? He's gone anyway in a month or two max. So I really don't know what Kansas could do. They could sit him down for the rest of the season. I don't think that benefits you though. Like, yes, you could win without him, but you have a better chance of winning a championship with him than without him, even though he before the game was ill against Arizona and he checked himself out. And you know what? I'm actually going to take him for his word on that one. I was watching an interview that Bill Self did, and he was like, the trainer even told me that he couldn't go. But I think last night Bill Self reached his boiling point because he's been on the attack defending the kid, and he's basically been trying to make this as it's an issue, but not. This is Bill Self last night. You'll see Darren Peterson checking himself out of the game, and then Bill Self responding to it afterwards.
Second straight miss for White as he's gone cold again, but guess who's hot? Darren Peterson. Give him 20.
You guys have kind of had this a couple times now where Darren has a really strong first half and then isn't able to go the rest of the game. Just how have you sort of navigated that, and what challenges does that maybe present?
Well, we've had it more than a couple of times, and I didn't anticipate that tonight at all. I thought he was good to go, but obviously we only got 18 minutes out of him, and that's disappointing because he could have had a really big night. But one thing about it is we've it's happened often enough that our guys have learned to play without him, even though that's not the way we want to play. But that's certainly something that we're not unaccustomed to, right now.
Here's the big question: will this happen? And I'm not talking about maybe as early as the second round, but can you see Kansas being in the Sweet 16, Garrett Ross? And let's say that game is on a Sunday with the trip to the Elite Eight on the line. Do you think then when we get in on Monday, just assuming that the dates would line up, that you think we're talking about a scenario where Darren Peterson checks himself out of a Sweet 16 game?
If Kansas is losing in the second half, yeah, I could see him doing it. I really could. I would not put it past him if they're losing by 8 to 12 points. There's a few minutes left, and he's like, the hell with this. I wouldn't put it past him.
I hope it doesn't happen, but I think even if they're winning the game, he could do this.
Probably.
If you're doing this right now on February 19th, what makes me think that you're not going to do it on March 19th? I'm just asking. I can't give him. This is so mysterious. This is so bizarre. I can't give him the benefit of the doubt. And you know what I guess the first true test will be?
What's that?
Because the rest of their schedule, they play Cincinnati. Then on Monday, they play number 2 Houston, big game. Then on Saturday, they play at number 4 Arizona, big game. That's next Saturday, excuse me. Then after that, they play Arizona State on March 3rd, and then they play March 7th at Kansas State. The Big 12 tournament. That's going to be probably the biggest story from conference tournament weekend. Is Darren Peterson going to pull any of these shenanigans in the conference tournament? Because if you're doing it in the conference tournament, what's not to say that you won't do it in the NCAA tournament?
I would push back on that one where I would, if I was Kansas at this point, I wouldn't even play him in the Big 12 tournament. I would just say, look, dude, We know how you are. We need you ready for March, like real March. So just sit this one out because at the end of the day, dude, they have so many Big 12 conference championships. And I understand you just play to win the game and all of that. But realistically, this is a business. And the real business comes in March. So if he sat out the Big 12 tournament and then was ready to roll for March, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Ugh,
I know. I'm just telling you.
That would be nasty.
I can say I wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
I wouldn't be surprised by any. I think everything's on the table. I'm not yelling at you and calling you an idiot anymore.
It's just crazy, dude.
All right, let's hear. This is college. This is last night.
With Coach Self, and I can't wait to hear what these guys say. We know that they can't win it without him. And we know they can't win it if he's only going to play 2 minutes in the second half.
Yeah.
So that's the obvious thing that Coach Self basically came to a realization on the podium today.
I think the interesting part is with this NIL era and the transfer portal, this has become much more transactional than we really thought about. From the standpoint that we can't separate the conversation of them winning the championship and him going to the NBA because it's a transition year for him at the end of the day. If he can go straight from high school and go to the pros, he probably would have done it. At the end, I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
So they really need him to win a championship. But if he's going to get in the NCAA tournament and you're going to load manage that part of it,
Wild.
why even be a part of it at that point?
Final thought.
It's a business, and I think the kids in the locker room understand he's got a chance to be number one. They want him to be healthy. You know, I think times have changed a little bit. Years ago, there might have been guys in the locker room that would really taken him to task a little bit, like, hey, man, we need you to win this championship. But they all recognize it might be just bigger than that. So
All right.
I'm disappointed, and this is not the last we're going to hear on this story.
Oh, this is nonstop.
Now, I know Bruce Pearl, I know well, you know, in addition to that, I'm a little bit surprised, though, Garrett, how they just assumed that the kid, and Jamal Mashburn had a kid that played at Temple like last year. Bruce Pearl obviously coached a team to a Final Four a year ago. I'm not going to dismiss their perspective right away, but it is interesting to me. Like, there's no way that, like, if you have actual dogs in that locker room, that they're like, oh, well, we know he could be the number one pick in the draft, and God forbid he tears his ACL.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a kid could understand it, but there's no way that they actually like it, and there's no way that they want to tolerate it. And with Bruce Pearl, or with Bill Self kind of opening up Pandora's box last night and being a little critical of the player, I wonder if his players inside the locker room are going to follow suit.
I mean, somebody's got to check him, right? You would think at some point you're going to get frustrated, or especially I keep going back to that Arizona game. How that unfolded was just so beyond me. But you would think, yeah, if you have people actually in here wanting to compete, somebody's going to sit up and check him. The one thing, listening to that though, the point that stood out to me was Mashburn, when he was talking about if this kid would have been able to skip and go straight to the NBA, he would have done that. Yeah. That right there is something we need to like really think about. Like, is making them play 1 year beneficial, like, for everybody, or are we to a point now where, like, is it going to hinder?
It's funny you say that. I have been a big advocate of eliminating the rule that you have to go to college or you have to spend a year out of high school, whether it's in the G League system or whether it's overseas, whatever. I think that people will say, well, oh, kids maybe won't be ready and like maybe they'll make a bad decision. Sure, that's life. Waiting an extra year, what is it going to accomplish where you're not even fully at the school for a year? And do I think all these kids that we're talking about would be ready to go right away? Like Darren Peterson, I think, go play in the NBA tomorrow. AJ DeBance, I think, go play in the NBA tomorrow. I think Cameron Boozer still would have gone to Duke for a year. I don't think he would have gone right out of college. I think his dad would have been like, hey, go. A guy like Darius Acuff, I think still would have gone. So it's not as if just because you take away the restriction that everyone's going to go, but they should at least have that option to choose. And if they make the wrong decision and prematurely go, it could derail your career. Yeah. So I don't have a problem with it. Like, and I remember when, like, it's not ancient history, but there was a time where you could go right out of high school.
Yep.
So I would have no problem if they changed that rule whatsoever. This was Jay Will on earlier.
You're a general manager.
I would be extremely concerned about Darren Peterson. I don't question his talent at all. His talent is the #1 pick in the draft. But I would take A.J. DeBonsa because I'm not sure about the availability of Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson has played 12 of 24 games this year in college basketball, and it's been everything from an injury, a hamstring injury, cramping with the Theragun on the sideline every single possession, having the flu, not playing through the flu, and also just checking himself out of second halves of games. I've done college game day where all of a sudden he 18 in the first half. You're like, damn, this kid is so elite. And all of a sudden the second half, is he playing? What happened? Nobody knows. Nobody wants to talk about it. His talent is unquestionable. It's elite. But it don't feel like he really wants to be there. It doesn't feel, and maybe this is a byproduct, KP, of when kids get paid NIL and they get money up front, right? If that's the way it goes, it's like, well, if I don't want to be here, I get my money up front, then I can check out when I want to check out. That's what this feels like. I don't know if it is that, but damn sure on paper, it looks like that.
The other thing that I wanted to, and I wish I could just ask Bill Self this, and I wish we could shoot him up a truth serum and get the actual answer. Why is he doing this? Like, if you're Bill Self, you got to ask your player, like, why are you doing this? And I'm just curious what the answer is. Ari Temkin from Big 12 Radio joined us early in the week. He's also a Kansas graduate, and he was already done with Darren Peterson as the week started. So I wonder how those opinions probably just intensified even more throughout the week. Let's take a look back at that conversation, that chunk on Darren Peterson with Ari Temkin. Darren Peterson's situation, this has been my take on it. They could win with him. They could win without him. Whether you think the injuries are legitimate or not, I don't want to make Bill Self mad again. The bottom line is the juice is still worth the squeeze because whenever you could get him on the court, this kid looks like he's going to be the #1 overall pick in the draft. And if you don't have him, yeah, it could be a headache. Yeah, it could be a little bit bizarre, but you could still go out there and beat a team that was the #1 team in the country. What do you make of all the conversation surrounding Darren Peterson?
Yeah, I mean, I don't exactly agree with that sentiment. And again, I'm emotionally invested in this because I am a Kansas alum and a huge Kansas basketball fan. But I think like the psyche of the locker room matters a ton here, and the lack of understanding of when he's going to be available or when is he going to play in this game or is he going to play in the second half? I can't imagine that that's good for the psyche of the locker room. But Bill Self and the Jayhawks think exactly along the same lines that you do, which is this dude is an insane talent. Would be crazy to not play him whenever we possibly can. It's a reason why, despite what my emotions might tell me in the next month, I'm not going to be picking Kansas to be a Final Four team. I think that their season ends maybe in the first weekend of the NCAA tournament with Darren Peterson on the floor. Peterson's doing just enough to justify being the #1 overall pick, but not enough for the name on the front of his jersey. And quite frankly, as an alum, I can't stand it. Like, Kansas basketball is so much bigger than Darren Peterson. It's so much bigger than Bill Self. The inventor of the game coached at Kansas and is the only losing coach. Wilt Chamberlain played at Kansas. Like, we're talking about an all-time school with the most wins in the history of college basketball that will be around long after Darren Peterson's gone. And not to say that Darren is treating it this way, because I like the kid, nothing against him. Like, I think he's got the right mentality. I think he's got a killer instinct in him. He's going to be great. But the people around him, the influence that they've had on him, I hate it. I can't stand it. And ultimately, like, what he's going to need to do to justify his career, not having nothing to do with Kansas. Like, he's got to be ready to play multiple playoff series in the NBA. And that is going to take a wear and tear and a toll on your body. And like, if he's just, if so far in his career, whether it be high school or college, as soon as he's got a little bit of adversity from a physical standpoint, he checks out. Well, is he suddenly going to be able to do that in the NBA when he's going to be expected to carry a team through multiple playoff series to win multiple championships? That's my question about him. I have no doubts about taking him #1 overall and being a great all-time player, but this dude has never had to fight against that adversity, the physical adversity that he's been dealing with over the course of this year. I don't doubt that he's had some of these things that have happened to him. And it's like, as soon as he doesn't feel 100% right, he's sitting out. I have no doubt that's the case here, but like, at some point you're going to have to push yourself past your pain threshold. And that goes well beyond the University of Kansas.
So that was Ari Temkin's fault. Now, last night, lost in the shuffle of all of it, there was a tremendous basketball game, not between Kansas and Oklahoma State, which, by the way, You know who was Garrett Ross? Do you know who was thrown right in the fire of Kansas and Oklahoma State?
I do not.
Pete Sousa. He was doing the play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw Pete was out there at Oklahoma State, and then I was when they were playing the highlights this morning. I heard his voice all over that stuff. So maybe
Nice.
I had a good conversation with Pete, and in a crazy way, we have a mutual friend, and we figured that out when we were at the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll get Pete on next week to talk college basketball and do a little crossover. I went to his turf. Now he's got to come to my turf.
Exactly.
This is not a 2-for-1. He's not Notre Dame, and I'm not South Harmon Institute of Technology. Like, we do 1-for-1 splits here on 365 Sports. Pete Sousa, all right? But anyway, what's lost in all this from Kansas and Oklahoma State is there was a tremendous basketball game last night between Alabama and Arkansas, where the Crimson Tide did prevail in double overtime. And Darius Acuff of the Razorback ended up losing 49 points in the game. Even with the two overtimes, he was sensational. Here was John Calipari afterwards on the toughness of Darius Acuff.
Obviously, the game he had, even in a loss, I guess just how much more growth?
He was in a boot for 2 days and still did that. And I said, "Do you think you might have to miss this game?" He said, "Are you nuts?" He didn't care, hurt, whatever it is. He was in a boot for 2 days.
Garrett, how about the funniness of that, where you have one player, Darren Peterson, on the same night, after 18 minutes, I'm cramping for the 17,000th time this season. I got to go because my advisors are telling me, Seth Davis will this view, minutes restriction. I got to go on the sideline. And Darius Acuff in a loss was in a boot for 2 freaking days. He goes out on the court and he almost single-handedly willed Arkansas to victory up against a top 25 team in Alabama. And when his coach said to him, "Hey, you're in a boot," maybe it's like John Calipari's produced a ton of pros. Maybe it's you don't go. Like, are you gonna have to miss this game? He's like, "Coach, what are you effing crazy?" Look at the difference. Darren Peterson is gonna be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, but then you have a guy like Darius Acuff. And is Peterson more talented than Acuff? Yes. Yeah. But with that mentality, don't be surprised if Acuff starts shooting up the draft board. I saw he was at 9. I think we said, open up this segment. I wouldn't be surprised if that kid ends up going in the top 5 of the draft.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that was Calipari's mentality behind that. Was just to say, like, look, I have a dude right here that's got some dog in him that's actually willing to play night in and night out. Where you got this cat over here who
Mama
gets a
ain't no bitch.
Gets a little hangnail, don't want to play. Like, I think there was something to that. I think there was something to that with Coach Cal.
Yeah, Cal is
he's calculated.
I don't know about the timing of everything and how it lined up, but that Peter, like, is there a bigger story entering March Madness than Darren Peterson?
No, I don't think you can make one this year. I really don't.
Like, the only other thing I could think of is Duke with John Shire because they gagged away.
Right.
Absolutely gagged away a trip to the national championship game. And now you have, I know Cooper Flagg is no longer there, but you have another player of the year in college basketball in Cameron Boozer. I would say, and I don't think that story usurps Darren Peterson, but I would say the first story I would think of is Darren Peterson. The second story would be John Shire.
I would the two, and maybe this is just because of where I'm located, but 2 stories that come to mind as well that impact the tournament is the key injuries to Richie Saunders and JT Toppin. How does that impact the Big 12 as they're trying to search and reclaim their throne? As
Texas Tech is donezo.
Absolutely.
With that Toppin injury getting confirmed yesterday, that was as bad as it looked with an ACL. Yeah. Unfortunate for Grant McCaslin's squad, they're donezo. Who would you? So the Big 12, obviously with Kansas. Who would you hitch your wagon to in the Big? It's still Houston, right?
For me, it's got to be Houston. I think they're just deep. I love Kelvin. If it comes down to coaching in the tournament, I'm taking Kelvin Sampson.
You don't trust Tommy Lloyd, right?
Some of his decisions are very.
You know who he is?
Who is that?
He's basically the Ryan Day of college basketball, where Ryan Day eventually got that championship, but he takes over the job, has all these winning seasons, and all these wins, very few losses, but doesn't win when it matters. And then come tournament time, Yeah, end up losing. Eventually, Day got through and won the national championship. But the storylines of the two kind of remind me of one another.
Yeah, no, that's a good comparison there.
And then outside of that, like Hurley's always a story. Him going for a three-peat. I don't think Michigan's a sexy story, but Dusty May is a sexy name because people, they parachute in for 1 month and it's like, okay, Dusty May a few years ago, Final Four with Florida Atlantic University. And that Michigan team, they have one loss in the season. They're a heck of a this weekend up against Duke. That's a huge statement because I think on paper, people will believe Duke is the more talented team.
Right.
And Duke has like more great players, let's just say. But those Michigan guys, the bench, they outscored Purdue the other night on just the bench. I think it was like 34-15. So those are some of the stories that do set up. I was texting with John Fanta the other day. I think this is going to be just one elite March Madness.
I hope so, man.
This is like the regular season's been phenomenal. This has been a fun regular season in college basketball and kind of made me refine my love for college basketball this year. All righty, 40 minutes past the hour. Zach Gelb here with you on 365 Sports. Charles Huff is going to join us at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Jake Asman is going to join us at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. But we got to take a break. When we come on back, we're talking about the future of C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. And I'm going to tell you something that the Texans shouldn't do this offseason and the Carolina Panthers also shouldn't do this offseason. We'll tell you about that next.
For the past 4 years, we have trusted Jackery to keep us powered while on the road. The Explorer 5000 Plus provides 5,040 watt-hours of portable power to pair it with the smart transfer switch to power your entire house off the Explorer 5000 Plus.
I had a panic moment running my hands through my hair, and that's when I found Keeps. Keeps gave me the results that I was really looking for.
I definitely felt a lot more confident once I saw my hair coming back.
Keeps has given me the control of my hair back.
Get your first month free at Keeps.com.
Number 1, the best bang for your buck. Number 2, we put out educational content. Number 3, our customer service and sales team. Number 4, we work to ship all orders out same or next day. Number 5, reviews. Let the gains begin.
Meet Beagle, your financial concierge. Find your old 401k. Discover your 401k hidden fees. Roll over and save thousands. Unlock your 401k and IRA. MeetBeagle.com.
The Lumi Charge is an all-in-one home desk lamp, speaker, and phone charger. It is a great...
I need that for my son when he goes off to college.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Oh boy. Garrett Ross, if I say the name John McClain to you, what comes to mind just one turn?
John McClain?
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame NFL writer?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Right? Okay. Like not a trick question there.
Yeah.
Have you seen why John McClain is in the news today?
I have not.
He may be in the nude. He also may be in the news because of potentially being in the nude.
Oh, no.
Now, hold on. Don't worry. There's no Wiener Gate here. There's no shirt-off photo of John McClain. But there is a little tweet that was issued today by John McClain.
Oh, shit.
That I will say I was not expecting. So Todd McShay, formerly of ESPN, he has his own show now, the Todd McShay Show.
Uh-huh.
There's going to be some big-name quarterbacks that are going to be targeted, McShay said, during his own Todd McShay Show. C.J. Stroud's name, does he need a new scenery? So those comments by Todd McShay, because like there's a lot of talk show hosts that are grasping for content now. Like, oh, football's over. I need something to talk about because I'm not talented enough and I can't, hold an audience and I can't be entertaining, right? Anytime somebody says something this time of the year, all right, I'm just going to take it and run with it. So in the last few days, there's been this whole like chatter of, are the Texans going to move off of C.J. Stroud? And all right, he's 3 years in the league. They've been to the playoffs all 3 years. They've went from the outhouse to sustainability and respectability. C.J. Stroud, whether you love him or not, he's won a playoff game in every year he's been a quarterback in the NFL. Now I was there. I'm going to sound like Mike Francesa. I had good seats. I was 15 rows off the 50. I had phenomenal seats for that game, and I saw it up close and personal how bad C.J. Stroud was up against my Patriots with his 4 first-half interceptions. So I understand why it's a hot-button topic, and a guy like McShay, who's been around for a long time, has name, has clout, and when he just throws it out there, speculation, people are going to take and run with it. So you have John McClain, right, the general.
Yeah, the general.
Who is not like, I don't think he goes out of his way to say things for clicks.
No.
He's not a hot take guy. I've been talking to John, oh boy, at least for 15 years, always well-researched, what Peter King is in the national world, and that's what you think of it. For local writers, he's the Peter King of the local writer world, where no one has a bad thing to say about him. He likes to help out people. He loves football. And he's always well-researched, well-informed, and he's going to do this until the day that he dies. Like that's just the reality with John McClain. So John McClain sees this, these rumors about C.J. Stroud, and he's not happy with these rumors about C.J. Stroud.
I bet he's not.
He takes to social media, and he tweeted out a photo of his penis. No, I'm just kidding. Because we were just talking about nude. But what he did was, if C.J. Stroud is traded, I'll walk naked down Kirby Drive at rush hour. Is anyone else willing to do it if he's not traded? Didn't think so. So if you get John McClain to be wrong here, we're going to have to see his sausage. Is his old sausage walking around on Kirby Drive. Now, I have a proposition.
Okay.
I don't think C.J. Stroud is going to get traded. Do you?
I don't think he should be traded. No.
Can we use Andrew Valade or Brandon or Brendan, whatever he wants to go by? Can we use one of them? Maybe they do a Kevin Durant burner. Maybe they put their own name on it to just tweet, yeah, I'll take you up on that challenge.
Okay.
It's like the odds of John McClain having to then circle back and find Andrew and find Brendan when C.J. Stroud doesn't get traded to see Brendan or Brandon or Andrew or whatever walk down Kirby Drive naked, all right, whatever. I don't think it would happen. But if it goes the way that John McClain wouldn't want it to go where he does get traded, do you think John McClain will actually be walking naked down Kirby Drive?
I think, you know what? I think John's a man of his word. I think he would. I think any charges for nudity would be handled by Mattress Mac. I think his homeboy Mattress Mac has him covered. So, yeah, man. Hell yeah, he would walk down Kirby naked.
All right. Andrew Valade, don't show us your cojones, but have some cojones. I want you to tweet John McClain and be like, all right, big boy, I'll take you up on this. I think he's going to get traded. I'll walk down Kirby Drive naked if he doesn't get traded. But if he does, we got to see that saggy sausage of John McClain walking down Kirby Drive.
Oh, my God, dude.
I hope for John's sake that this doesn't pop back up where it's, oh my God, now you have to do this.
I kind of want to see it just to see if you can follow through with it. Not like that, but just to see if you can follow through with it.
Yeah, I saw a headline. It was like, legendary NFL reporter may have to walk down Kirby Drive naked. I'm like, huh?
What?
I go, what is this about? Mike Hill. Do you know Mike Hill from Fox Sports?
I do not. I'm not.
So Mike Hill, he does the studio show on Fox, not the main one, Big Noon Kickoff, but when it's with Chris Peterson. I think there's somebody else.
Okay. I know
Nice guy. Well, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, the first time, he was on my local radio show when I was hosting for the station, 920 AM The Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And he said midway through the season, I'm like, oh, the Eagles are a team that could look like they get to the Super Bowl. He goes, if the Eagles get to the Super Bowl, I'll do an Eagles chant in a diaper. Not only did they get to the Super Bowl, they won the Super Bowl.
Oh, dang.
I followed up with Mike Hill. Have never heard from him since.
Oh, you better hold up on your account, man. You got to do that.
Well, it's from 2017 or 2018. Have never heard from him since.
I like the Florida State guy with the not eating the cup. Like, come on, bro.
Oh yeah. That was a wild. Was that 2 football seasons ago, right?
Years ago, yeah.
It's when they bottomed out, right?
Yeah.
Coming off just missing out on the college football playoff. Let's see, Mike Hill. Does he even? Yeah, it's Mike Hill. I wonder if I could even find that tweet anymore.
He probably just got rid of it.
Well, who knows? In this era of Twitter right now, it's like impossible. No, I don't think he ever got rid of it. Oh, actually,
did he do it?
He responded to me in 2018 saying he would do it.
Oh, we got to follow up with this, man.
But he never did.
We got to hold him accountable.
So
it can't be Darian Peterson.
Yeah. So here it is. Giants fan, it's Mike Hill, will do an Eagles chant in an Eagles jersey wearing a diaper if the Eagles make it to the Super Bowl. It was on November 3rd, 2017. I then quote tweeted it like a jackass after the Eagles won on February 5th, 2018, when they did beat my New England Patriots. It's Mike Hill. Any update? He wrote back that same day. He wrote back, I've been away from my radio show the past few weeks, but I promised to do so as soon as I'm back on. I
think
I never got the Mike Hill chant in a diaper. Never ended up getting one from Mike Hill. Not that I need to see it, but I think it would be a little bit lame if this late in the game if I circle things back from 2017, 2018. But yeah. So Mike Hill, not a man of his word.
No.
John McClain. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So, run that by Andrew Valet. Just be like, hey, would you be willing to walk down a street in Houston naked if C.J. Stroud doesn't get traded? I don't know. I feel like Andrew is like a little bit of a wild card that he would maybe say yes to it.
He might. He definitely might. Might just disappear and do it on his own.
You just play him some Grateful Dead music or something like that, and he'll waltz anyway.
Lost. Yeah.
He'll waltz anyway. He'll get lost in the trance of the music, and then who knows? He'll just start ripping off his clothes. But here is my point on all of this. I think the Texans and the Carolina Panthers need to look at the Jaguars, and they need to look at the Dolphins, and they need to look at the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals rushed to pay Kyler Murray. The Miami Dolphins rushed to pay Tua Tagovailoa. The Jacksonville Jaguars rushed to pay Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence had a good year this past year, but he wasn't deserving of that contract yet. Kyler Murray wasn't deserving of that new contract yet. Tua Tagovailoa wasn't deserving of that contract. The rookie year is so important, the rookie years of your contract, right? That first contract, that rookie contract. If you're a first-round pick, which Kyler Murray was, Trevor Lawrence was, and Tua was, and C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are, you could get up to 5 years. It's a 4-year deal, and then it's a 5th-year option. And we live in a world now, especially with football, where it's like, oh, if you're good, you get great quarterback money. How has that worked out for the Cardinals? How has that worked out for the Dolphins? And even though they just made the playoffs this year, I still don't know what to expect moving forward out of Trevor Lawrence. So the Texans, I don't care if C.J. Stroud sits you down and goes, guys, I've been here. You guys were the number 2 overall pick when you got me. I've made the playoffs 3 straight years. I've won 3 playoff games. I've also lost 3 in the divisional round. I know I sucked in the divisional round game, but I didn't have Nico Collins, injuries left and right. If you want me as your quarterback, you got to give me $55 million this year. I would take a page. I can't believe I'm saying this out of Jerry Jones's playbook, and I wouldn't be afraid to get down and get dirty a little bit. You do not have to rush and go pay C.J. Stroud. Through 3 years, all you need to do right now is you pick up his fifth-year option, and then you say, we will, unless you want to take a discount, CJ, we will have this conversation about a contract after the 4th year. We got to see more. That's what I would do. And for Bryce Young, I think the conversation's a lot easier because Bryce Young isn't as accomplished. I get it. They just made the playoffs this year, but they backed their way into the postseason. They were 8-9. It's not as if they've had ever a great record season under Bryce Young. The dude just over a year ago was benched and then had to play his way back and gave some hope down the stretch. And he had a fine season this year. But through 3 years, can I sit there and say that Bryce Young is a franchise quarterback or Bryce Young is a great quarterback or I'm willing to pay Bryce Young $55 or $60 million? No. Now, you want to take a discount, and I don't think Stroud or Young, maybe Young would. I don't think he would. Would they maybe take a 3-year contract for $100 million or use something like that where maybe it's you go a little bit more than Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold? You know, would you maybe go $40 million a year for 3 years, 120 over 3 with outs in it? If Stroud or Young would be willing to do something like that, maybe a different conversation. But if I was running the Panthers, if I was running the Texans, I would sit CJ Stroud down. I would sit Bryce Young down. I would ask them about their contract. And when they start about a contract extension or if it's through their agents, I would say, guys, we are happy with you. We're going to invest and put more around you to try to get even more out. But it would be football malpractice right now to give CJ Stroud a $55 million a year contract. We just can't do it. And CJ, if you don't want to be patient with us, we'll trade you somewhere. And then maybe we're going to have to see John McClain walking around some street somewhere in Houston. And the same thing for Bryce Young. Like, Bryce, your career very early on when we drafted you was on life support after being the number 1 overall pick with the way that it went the first year and the way that it was going for a little bit of the second year. We appreciate what you've done the last year and a half, but we can't justify paying you what you've done so far, $55 or $60 million. And I don't know what the market would even be for a smaller quarterback like a Bryce Young. Like, someone would give up a draft. So learn from the mistakes of the Cardinals and the Dolphins. That would be the biggest advice that I could give this offseason to the Houston Texans and to the Carolina Panthers. And if you rush to go pay CJ Stroud or you rush to go pay Bryce Young and they don't play well this year and you got egg on your face and you got attached to that contract, that's how a situation that looks promising right now ends up just falling right off the track and you end up regretting it. Do not give a lucrative long-term extension unless it's a significant discount this year for either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Play it on out. Zach Gelb here with you on 365 Sports. You can always give me a follow on Twitter at Zach Gelb. Also on Instagram at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. You can find me on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. YouTube.com /@365 Sports YT. YouTube.com /@365 Sports YT. Subscribe. Charles Huff, I'm a big fan of his. I remember when he was at Marshall, he defeated Notre Dame. Then I was always wondering when he was going to get that next big job for whatever the reasons were. Him and Marshall split. He wound up at Southern Mississippi. He was there for a year. He took a program that had 1 win before he got there to 7 wins this past year. Ryan Silverfield departs for Arkansas from Memphis. We see Justin Fuente. He left Memphis, and we saw Mick Norvell leave Memphis, and then we saw Ryan Silverfield leave Memphis. So for the last decade, Memphis has been in good hands when it comes to football, and they win a whole lot of games. And there was an opportunity that presented itself for Charles Huff to go jump in and go join the Memphis Tigers as their head coach. So we'll have our first conversation with Charles Huff as the head football coach at Memphis since he got introduced there a few months back. When we come on back in 2 minutes, looking forward to that chat. Charles Huff will join us on the Zach Gelb Show on 365 Sports in 2 minutes.
The 4-burner, side sear burner with Clearview Glass stainless steel grill from Monument Grills. Made of tempered glass, which is strong, insulated, and allows you to check your grilling without lifting the lid. Our porcelain-coated cast iron cooking grids offer a large cooking surface of 513.3 square inches, primary cooking area, with even heat cooking. The Monument Grills include LED control knobs and are easy to light with pilotless electronic ignition. Better grilling, better value, Monument Grills.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
Hey guys, I'm Abby Dommett, 2023 CrossFit Games athlete, and I use Airwave because it helps me breathe easier and stay more relaxed during my workouts.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Very discreet.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
We continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on 365 Sports. Now joining us is new head football coach at Memphis, and that, of course, is Charles Huff. Coach, appreciate the time. Congratulations. How things been settling into the new gig?
It's been great, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. Obviously, taking the new job, moving the family, getting the portal guys in, getting the coaches in. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. We got a lot of work to do, but I'm really excited about our guys, really excited about this opportunity. Our administration's been great. So now I guess it's all on me.
Yeah, and we'll see what's going to happen. And I think it's been well-deserved in order for you getting a bigger job, and I'm excited to see what you could do with the opportunity. I did have a friend who actually he got married at Memphis, still lives there. He's a dentist, Dr. Glick, and he goes, make sure coach is all squared away with all the good food spots. So he said, get a bologna sandwich from Payne's, go to Little Central Barbecue, Commissary as well. Those were some of his favorite spots. Have you been to any of them?
I have not. I've got a list of places that I need to visit. One of the beautiful things about Memphis is obviously the community, the food, the restaurants. And obviously the food's good, but when you get to these places and you get to meet the people, and some of the people have been here for 20 plus years, and, their restaurant has kind of grown, from a family style to more corporate business style now. So that's just part of the beauty of Memphis. Hopefully I don't put on too many pounds in the transition.
Well, you got to hit the ground running, and obviously you've done that as things move very quickly. So you're at Southern Mississippi for a year. We know what you accomplished at Marshall. Everyone remembers that game up against Notre Dame and how ridiculous it was and unbelievably cool it was. Just Ryan Silverfield, we were all waiting for him to get that next job. He goes to Arkansas. Memphis opens up. Kind of tell me how this all came about and why this gig was the right opportunity for you.
Yeah. A lot of times people think, getting head coaching jobs at this level is kind of like, putting your LinkedIn profile on some website and you just apply with your desired salary and all of that. And that's not really how it is. It's a relationship business. Dr. Ed Scott, who is the athletic director here, heard me speak at an event, the Fiesta Summit, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And he had kind of put me on a list of guys that, he wanted to kind of track. And when the opportunity with Ryan came for him to take the job at Arkansas, obviously he did a phenomenal job here in sustaining this success over the past few years. Dr. Scott reached out, and I've told people before, sometimes opportunities come at very different times. We didn't plan to go to Southern Miss for 9 months and jump to the next, but when an opportunity like this comes along, the resources where college football is now and the level of success they've had here, This conference, I think it is probably the best Group of 5 conference in the country right now, being able to legitimately compete at a high level and compete for the college football playoff spots. It was too good of an opportunity to pass up, and sometimes the best opportunities or the best plans, come at times that really stress us and make us have to make tough decisions. So it was a tough decision. It was a fast process, but really excited about it and really appreciative of, Dr. Scott and the administration for offering the opportunity to me. Really appreciative of the Southern Miss administration. We had an unbelievable run there. We're really building to kind of take that program back to the level of success it's had. But really excited now here to come close the gap. It's been success here at very high levels, Coach Norvell, Coach Silverfield, all the way back to years and years behind Coach Fuente. It's been really good success here. And once you get here and you see the people, meet the people, you get in the city, you can see why. And now we've got to take that next step and close the gap and get into the conference championship. And that's our goal. It's not going to be easy, but we don't shy away from what the real goal is. That doesn't mean that teams are going to lay down or we're just going to roll out there and win every game, but you got to know where you're going in order to create a plan.
Everywhere you've gone, your process has worked. It worked at Marshall, Southern Mississippi. I know it was only a year, but the year before that, they were 1 win. You guys have 7 wins. That's a crazy improvement. So you're always going to be true to your core. You're going to be Charles Huff. But when you take a new job, you got to adapt and things got to change. What changes in the philosophy from your 2 previous spots to where you're going now in this stop at Memphis?
I think the resource level, when you're at this level, you're really you're in the mix with rev share. And that's probably something that's changed for me, not only the management of the resources, but the allocation of it. There's a fine line between buying players and recruiting the right players and then making them comfortable, right? I think if you just go out and buy players, here's a dollar, here's a dollar, here's a dollar, you don't always get the best return on your investment. When you go out and recruit the right players that fit your system, that fit your culture, and then you reward them or make them comfortable with the rev share, I think you can build something special. And that probably is the biggest difference for me. Obviously, we've got the same foundational plan of what we want to do from a culture standpoint. Obviously, our recruiting, the level of recruiting goes up a little bit because of the rev share. But we're still looking for the same person. We're looking for a kid with really good character. We're looking for a tough, discipline-minded kid. Doesn't have to be a high school kid or a portal kid. It's just whatever the best situation is. So for me, it's probably the resource level and the ability to allocate the funds the right way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and relationships, that's what coaching is still about. But in this world, it's tougher to just be purely a relationship coach. But that's how you find people, and that's how you get them to your program when you try to continue the success of Memphis. Like, I'll just bring up a player like Ian Foster, for example. He was with you at Marshall, was with you at Southern Miss, and now is with you at Memphis. How do you know when you make that jump to the preeminent, non-Power 4 conference in college football in the American? How do you know a kid like that is ready to go have success at your program?
Well, you spend time with him, obviously, and you've seen, his makeup. You know what he's made up about. You know who he is when he's not on the field. This game means a lot to him. He had opportunities to go make a lot of money because he's played at a really high level. And he wanted to stay with people he knew. And I think that says a lot about our organization. I think that says a lot about our people, that he turned down money for the relationship. And I think it gets lost a little bit in today's game, but I think it still happens. But you get to see him on a daily basis, and not only physically he can play the game at a high level, but culture makeup wise, he's going to fit what you're trying to build. He's got the toughness, he's got the discipline, he's got the athleticism, and he understands that this is bigger than a paycheck. This is a lifetime investment from me to him. And helping him grow and develop into a man, into a better human, a better player, a better student. We talk to our guys all the time. I just want our guys to leave our program and go be more successful in life. If that's the NFL, great. If that's being a CEO, great. If that's being a great husband, great. But we pour into our kids with that goal rather than, hey, here's $100 more, come make a tackle for us. And I think when you do that, kids and families truly appreciate that.
It's nice to see those relationships still exist. And to be clear, I'm not anti-NIL, I'm not anti-transfer portal, but I went to Temple University from 2012 to 2016, and I saw the way that Matt Rule built that program. And like Deion Dawkins, who's a close friend of mine, if there was the transfer portal and NIL the way it is now, a guy like Deion or Matt Ioannidis or Tyler Medikevich or Hassan Reddick, after 1 year, probably would have gone to a bigger school. So that's got to be a frustrating point where, yes, you have a bigger job in Memphis. Memphis has good resources. They've had sustained success, like you said, through 3 previous regimes. But if a player has success under your watch, you're recruiting him 24/7 to make sure that he's going to stay and not go into the Power 4.
Yeah, I look at it a little different. I look at it as if a young man comes in and creates enough value for himself and his family, that he gets opportunities to go somewhere else and create more value. I look at that like a parent who your kid's graduating high school and now he's going off to college. Him leaving is not always a negative to you or to us. I look at it as a positive. We should be putting our players in position to where they have an opportunity to go make more or put themselves in a different situation. What we try to do is we try to make sure that the reason they leave is never because they didn't have a good experience here, because they didn't like the way we treated them or they didn't like the way we coached them. If they choose to leave, in the world we live in now, we all kind of look, out of the same window, right? You can take a job at, ESPN and everybody congratulates you, but a kid transfers to another school and it's like, oh, he didn't want to be here. Well, it's not that. It's another opportunity for a young man. And if he and his family think that that's the best decision, we want to support that. We always want to make sure we don't do a closeout survey, but we always want to make sure if a young man leaves for more or whatever he thinks is better, that he's leaving here knowing that we did everything we could to help his situation while he was here, help him create value for himself while he was here, and hopefully poured into him enough to make him better wherever he goes. And I think when you look at it from that standpoint, you don't get upset when the kid says, I'm leaving. It's not your high school girlfriend, man. She's not breaking up with you. A young man who's got an opportunity that hopefully you helped him create. And hopefully, like you say, and now, you say, well, we poured into him and we did all these things. Yeah, that's the beauty of it, but we're also getting some young men via the transfer portal that give us an opportunity to pour into them or get an opportunity to pour into this community. So it goes both ways. We try to look at things with a glass half full mentality. A young man gets a chance to go double his salary. If you want to say it that means he did a really good job for us. And we probably have benefited greatly from it. And now it's time for him to reap those benefits for himself as well.
And right, it happens for coaches too in their climb, and like for us as broadcasters in any walk of life. I've always wanted to ask you this because it just never made sense to me. Like, you're at Marshall, that came to an end, and you wind up at Southern Mississippi. Why did the Marshall run come to a close? Because I always thought, in no disrespect to Southern Mississippi, that if you were leaving Marshall, it was going to be for a job like Memphis or a job that would be in the P4.
Yeah, the Marshall years were great. We did a lot of really good things. At the end, we weren't able to come to an agreement from a contractual standpoint, which is part of business. I think we look at it now. I mean, there's TV contracts where people go separate ways for whatever reason, and it's never a ill will. It's, hey, this is where we are. This is where we are. We can't meet in the middle, or we're not able to come to an agreement. So we were both able to kind of, go separate ways with positive experiences. It led us to, which, for me was actually a really good situation, because it led us to Southern Miss, who was looking for some immediacy in not only culture, but immediacy in sustainability, right? Getting back to a level of consistency. It allowed me to meet some really good people. It allowed, and I'll be honest, it probably was the start of this new coach leaves and how many players follow him. And that probably helped our process a lot more because so many players were willing to follow. And it wasn't just about money, and it wasn't just about how much they could get paid or whatever that may be. It was about what's the relationship connection with the players you have. And I think it probably opened the country's eyes to it's a little more than just the money. There is a relationship piece still there. I think Coach Signetti is a prime example of it.
Yeah.
He was able to take some players with him, to Indiana from JMU to kind of set the foundation, and then they were able to build off of that. So I think it was a really good experience. Obviously, from the outside looking in, it's like, why can't these two come to an agreement? But that's the business side of things. I always try to leave situations for whatever reason better than we found them. I try to never leave with any ill will. There's no ill will between Marshall and me and Southern Miss and me. Every season has its time. It was just a weird timing. And then when you capitalize it with, well, why would he go to Southern Miss and they're 1-11? If I leave Marshall and I go to NC State, everybody's like, oh, that's great. Well, in my eyes, the situation at Southern Miss was as good as going to some bigger places because of what they were willing to invest, where they were from a resource standpoint, where they were willing to make the steps needed. So it worked out really good.
Charles Huff here with us. I always think this is important in life, that when you're trying to climb, you surround yourself with established people and you learn from them, and then you put your own spin on it, and you always kind of use them as a resource. You've had some pretty good people that you work under in the past, in PJ Fleck, James Franklin, and then the creme de la creme name in Nick Saban. Just what did you kind of take from those three guys, being able to work with them at different stages of your life?
Yeah, I think it's, the good Lord has timing, for everything. When I got a chance to work for PJ Fleck, he was just becoming a head coach. A lot of people were confused about his energy and, his mantras and his push. But what you saw on a daily basis was he was himself. And it taught me, you got to be yourself. You can always pull from the people you've worked for, the people you've been influenced by, but you got to be yourself, and you can't worry what you being yourself makes other people think, because the authenticity of you being yourself is going to carry a lot longer than you trying to be someone else. And then getting the chance to work for Coach Franklin, I learned the detail of recruiting and the detail of the intentionality that you got to have. You got to call kids every day. You got to DM them. You got to text them. You got to get to know the parents and the grandmothers. And you can't go a day without doing it. And everything matters. The same way you talk about on the field when you're recruiting, everything matters, whether we're eating at a restaurant and we're sitting on the right side of the table or the left side of the table. All those things matter. And then when I got to the doctorate level of college coaching, I realized the consistency in your approach from Coach Saban and the discipline that it takes to be great. You really don't have a lot of choices. It takes what it takes. And there's not a lot of glitz and glamour. Being great is boring because you're doing the same thing over and over and over until you become a master at your craft. So all of those things put together really helped me be me with the influences from all those other people. And I give them all credit because there were different phases of my career. Every time I kind of got around a different coach, I thought I knew everything and I learned something different. And then I get an opportunity to be a head coach and I call all of them back and I'm like, man, you guys didn't tell me it was going to be like this. So, but it really helped me understand, there's got to be some foundation to who you are and what you believe in, and you got to stand on that.
Do you think we need Nick Saban? I know he doesn't want to do it, but do you think we need him to be the commissioner of college football to help us sort some of these problems out?
I think we need it's interesting. It's very difficult to say we need a commissioner or we need one person. Obviously, Coach Saban would do a phenomenal job of working through some of these things. But where we are now with the legal getting involved and without us being basically a union like the NFL, I don't know if one person can solve all the issues. Some of the issues we have are because we are right now caught in between. We want to operate like the NFL, but we still are operating in an amateur lane. And I don't know if one person can fix that. Some of the things that we're going through right now are because of the ability for the players to earn without having some type of employment status. And until we kind of cross those bridges, I'm not sure that Coach Saban or Vince Lombardi can fix our issues holistically, right? I think there'll be some things that he can give different perspective on, but there's a lot of other outside factors that would really hamper if one person was in charge.
It's like there's something new every day. And I know On3 had this report out this morning. The NCAA is threatening to vacate wins and erase stats and fine schools if it wins its ongoing eligibility lawsuit. I know Memphis from Cortez Bram was thrown into that, along with Indiana and San Diego State. I know that's not when you were there, but you're there now. How do you kind of react to that? Because I kind of look at it and I go, all right, another lawsuit with the NCAA, even if they win, probably gets appealed, and then probably much doesn't come out of it. But how do you process it?
Yeah, I try to do what we tell our players to do, man. Control what you can control, focus on the things that you have the ability to change, right? I am not a lawyer and nowhere near legal.
Makes two of us.
So I just try to focus on the things I can control, right? Trying to focus on giving our kids the best opportunities, trying to help our kids understand like there's going to be some things that are out there, whether it's the NCAA, whether it's fans, whether it's what's going on at home, that you have no control over. And the only thing you can control is what you do every single day where your feet are. So that's my approach. I know there is a lot of, if thens and, opportunities, and this could happen. And don't get me wrong, you have to be aware of those things, but you try to spend the mental energy on things you can move the needle on, right? I can move the needle on getting a really good relationship with the players in our locker room, putting our staff in a position to be organized on a daily basis so we move the needle, doing a really good job with our community to get them to understand of how much we need them to support. And then when they tell me that some wins have been changed or a rule has been changed, and we adapt. But I trust me, there's a lot smarter people working on it than me. You probably have better knowledge and expertise in it than I do. So we kind of try. I sometimes coaches don't do what we tell our players to do, which is focus on what you can control. So I try to do that. And then as things come down or things get handed out, we kind of adapt on the fly.
Let me get to what you can control. Your quarterback competition with Marcus Stokes and Air Nolan is what I've been reading about when doing some prep for your team. Just where do you think we're at in that? I know it's so early, but what stands out to you with some of those players and other people that could get into the mix here?
Yeah, I think both of those guys, Denzel Gardner's in that mix as well. I think all three of those guys have what we call as the foundation. What does that mean? They have the leadership skills. They have the ability to know, hey, this quarterback position carries a different weight. I always talk about it as the quarterback, on a football team, you're the leadoff batter. You got to get on base, to get this thing going. So you got to do the extra study, and you have to show up on time. You have to do well academically. You have to know what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, all of those things. So from that perspective, those guys have done a really good job. You can see why Marcus and Air were highly recruited, athletes coming out of high school from a skill set perspective. You can see why they have had the success that they've had at different places because they have that leadoff mentality, right? I got to get on base. I have to study more than everyone else. I have to watch more film. I have to be early. I have to do a really good job of leading. As we get closer to spring ball, we'll be able to kind of put some statistical evaluation to it. But I think as far as what they've done, we've just run around cones and, we had some kumbayas, but as far as what they've done, their presence and their foundation is setting them up for a really big year.
I know you had overlap with Tua at Alabama. Just wondering, I don't know what the relationship's still like, but it looks like he's on the outs in Miami. Just what advice would you give to him as he's trying to revitalize and restore his career in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to give Tua any advice. Tua is one of the most mentally strong kids that I've been around. He's always positive. He's in a business where one throw you're good, one throw you're not. I think he fully understands that. I expect him to land with another team and have an unbelievable career. I think sometimes that position, as we know, gets over scrutinized. Don't get me wrong, it has to. But Tua has the foundation, the mental toughness, the mental disposition. He'll be fine. You're talking about a kid who came into a national championship game, in the crunch time and made a huge throw on the biggest stage. You're talking about a kid that got injured and battled his way back. This is just another adversity test that he's going through. I know he'll pass it. The beauty of the NFL is you get scrutinized for everything. The negative of the NFL is you get scrutinized for everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing Tua land with another team and continue to have successful seasons, as he did in the beginning of the career at in Miami, and just like he did for us at Alabama.
What's your favorite Saquon Barkley story? Because you have such a different relationship with him just when you two got paired up together.
Yeah. So we're recruiting him and we're sitting in his living room and he's like, well, coach, the only thing, if I come to Penn State, I want to wear 21. And I said, yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, you're going to wear 21, man. You got it. He's like, okay, great. Well, the first day he gets there, he's got 26 in his locker. And he comes up to me, he's like, coach, you said I could wear 21. I said, put effing 26 on and go play. Well, now 26 is the highest selling NFL jersey in like the last 4 or 5 years. And he and I joke about that because ultimately the number has nothing to do with it. But a kid coming out of high school, it was all about, well, I got to have this number. I got to have that number. And then he gets there and he's like, coach, I got 26. And I'm like, yeah, put the effing jersey on and go play. And now all of a sudden 26 is the highest selling jersey. But it's because a kid like him, whether you had on 26 or 00, it's what you do in the jersey that people are going to remember. And he and I joke about that a lot when we talk. He went out and made 26 what he wanted 21 to make him. And that's just the beauty of, when you have really, really good players who have the right mental disposition, hard workers. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. He's hard on himself. He wants to be better than great. He wants to be the best. He's an unbelievable teammate and person. He wants everybody to have success. And I think he's getting the benefits from doing things the right way.
Why didn't you get him 21? Was it just given out to somebody else?
Yeah. Somebody else already had it. Yeah. I didn't even know. I was just like, yeah, but when you're recruiting, you're telling whatever they want to hear. See, back then there was no rev share. So you couldn't be like, oh, you can't know somebody else got 21, but we'll give you extra $100,000. You can't do that anymore. Yeah. So back then you had to tell, yeah, you got 21. Yeah, you're gonna be a starter. Yeah, you can wear Nike cleats. Yeah. So recruiting was a little different back then. The carrots you dangled back then were a little different now. If a kid wants a number that's not available, you just add $100,000 to his rev share, and he usually is okay with it. But back then we didn't have that luxury. Yeah.
Last thing I'll ask you, Charles Huff's been great with us, new head football coach at Memphis. Really excited to see what he's going to do with that program. If it was your choice, like the college football playoff, it's at 12 teams right now. There's talks about expanding it to 16 or 24. Do you think we should expand or just keep it at 12?
I'm a fan of keeping it at 12. And I only say that because you got to play your way in. And every year there's going to be a team or two who are just on the outside. And I think that's what creates the story and the narrative and the excitement about college football. You look at college basketball. Well, they got 64 teams get in, and we still have shows about the bubble teams and what teams should get in. Then we've added a play-in game. So I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect scenario. So I think you keep it at 12. You make the fight very hard to get in, to be one of those 12. Every year there's going to be a team or two that gets left out, and rightfully so. They have arguments that they should be in, shouldn't be in, all of those things. But I think that's what makes college football so special. I think that's what makes it very unique, because it's not hey, everybody gets in just to play another game. You really have to hit it right. You got to do everything right. You got to maximize every opportunity, because there may come you don't play well one week and it could cost you, the season. I think that's what creates the level of excitement and passion that we have for our sport. I know that, when you open it up and you go to 24, 16 or whatever they're talking about, the revenue goes up, which drives everything. But I think the sacredness of that 12 makes the fight a little bit harder, makes you train harder in the off season. You're fighting for 12 spots. It's not the 64 and, hey, if we get in and we hit it hot and, Cinderella world. So I'm a component of staying with 12. I know, my vote carries about as much weight as this call that we're on. But I think, it creates the excitement that we all love about college football. I mean, think about the shows and the arguments and the debates that we had over whether Notre Dame should or shouldn't have got in. And I'm not on either side, but that energy that we put into that, and there were legitimate arguments back and forth. And I think that's what creates such a special, unique bond in college football that a lot of other sports don't have.
Coach, really appreciate the time. Really appreciate the honesty. Good luck coming up here. You're number one in Memphis. Excited to see what you do with the program.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on. Wish you all the best.
There he is. That is
What I love most.
Joining us right there on 365 Sports. We will take a timeout and we will come on back with Jake Asman after these short messages.
What I love most about playing basketball is the competition. I really just like being shifted, mastering hesitation moves, changing direction, building chemistry with new teammates. If you're not having fun while you're playing, there's no point in playing the game. You know what to do. Escape Basic. Pair of Thieves quick dry underwear. It wicks away sweat and helps keep you dry. You looking forward to fishing season?
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
I'm here to work out with you.
We did not put this little cookie cutter program together.
I'm in there with you, sweating, yelling, doing the damn thing.
Transform by Core Home Fitness.
A secret, I travel internationally every year. I struggle with insomnia both at home and especially in hotels. This was life-changing. It's called Fly Kit. My favorite aspect of the Fly Kit is it tells you when to sleep.
Dude, check out this robe. This is the dude robe. It's perfect for after the shower, gym, or even the beach. This thing is awesome. It also has this super premium towel lining to dry you off right away. Dude, what are you waiting for? Get yourself a dude robe today.
At Dreamy, we believe that life can be upgraded in comfort, convenience, and joy. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. We're continuing our NFL offseason preview as we go through all 32 teams. We did the Raiders yesterday. I think we're just going to go in order of the draft. So today we go with the team that's holding the second overall pick in the draft. They also have another pick at number 16. And we welcome in the biggest Jets fan I know. His name is Jake Asman. He also does a great job covering the Jets as the host of the Jake Asman Show. And in addition to that, working for ESPN Radio in New York. Jake, appreciate it. How are you?
Zach, congrats on the new gig here and an honor to join you.
All righty. There's so many different ways that we could start this conversation. They're not going to be able to trade up to one. The Raiders are going to take Fernando Mendoza. So what are your thoughts right now about 2 months out from the NFL draft and what the Jets should do with the second overall pick?
Yeah, to your point, there's no obvious path for the New York Jets at number 2. It's not like, let's say, last year where you had Abdul Carter, for example, and it's like, oh, you just take the best, non-quarterback in that spot. And turns out Travis Hunter even went before Carter. It feels like there's some good players in this draft, but there's not that generational can't-miss talent. So it really comes down to, which flavor of, I believe, defensive player the Jets wanted. The 3 names I believe to look at here 2 months out, You look at the three pass rushers. They all can kind of do different things. That'd be David Bailey of Texas Tech, Ruben Bain of Miami. And then the last name is Arvell Reese, who's to me the most intriguing prospect because he's only 20 years old and he didn't rush the passer a ton this past year at Ohio State. They used him all over the place as an outside linebacker. And then when they lined him up at edge, he was really efficient if you look at his pressure rate when he got the chance to do it. So I think this early on, it's tough to say where the Jets are leaning. There's also that argument of, hey, what about a receiver? Some of these receivers are projected to go around 4, 5, or 6. So could the Jets, who desperately need playmakers next to Garrett Wilson, could they do it as early as number 2? And then the position value debate. Caleb Downs of Ohio State, the star safety who could do a lot on a defense, is too early for a safety. Maybe in a different year it would be, but if he's clearly the best player on the Jets board, would they go down that path? So a lot of options at number 2, which makes it really exciting to talk about because they could go down a ton of different paths.
I do think it's going to be one of the 3 pass rushers. I like David Bailey a lot, and I think that he was just overshadowed a little bit this year by Jacob Rodriguez, but that's also why I think Jacob Rodriguez didn't get an invite to New York, was because you could have just as easily voted for the Heisman David Bailey if you were going to vote for Rodriguez. So we'll see which one out of the 3 they do prefer, but the wide receiver argument, when you have Garrett Wilson there, is an interesting one. Could you take a Jordan Tyson? I guess you could. And also you have Carnell Tate if you want to keep the Ohio State family kind of together with Garrett Wilson. So the wide receiver is interesting, but Downs is going to be a great player. And that's why I think we shared the sentiment just the way that you brought it up. I think it's going to be pass rusher, but if they go Caleb Downs at 2, I don't know how a Jet fan could really be upset with that.
Yeah, look, it's tough to sit here and say, how could you take that player when this is a defense, Zach? They didn't have an interception this past year, as embarrassing as that is, right? So they need playmakers. Their safety play was an abomination, and Downs is much more than your typical safety. I had a caller on my YouTube show make a really good point. His name was Ralphie, so shout out to Ralphie on Long Island for this. If you think back to the Kyle Hamilton draft, oh, you can't take a safety, it's too high. Well, let's look at who the Giants that year picked. Similar situation. They took an edge rusher in Kayvon Thibodeau. Would you rather have Kayvon Thibodeau, who's been a good player but not great? It's been okay.
Kyle Hamilton, it's not even close.
Or Kyle Hamilton, right? Who went, 20 picks later or 15 picks later, and he's a 2-time All-Pro, and he's one of the best players, obviously, in the league, regardless of position. So, that's where you could kind of get into a bit of an issue if you're just talking about, oh, you can't take a certain position because, that's not how you build your team. At the end of the day, if your grade on Downs is so much higher than the pass rushers, you almost have to do it just based on how you're building your team and how you're evaluating prospects.
And ultimately, there is not a team in the league right now with how they're positioned that needs to hit their draft picks more than the Jets. And that's why eventually you got to get a quarterback. And I'm fine if they don't take one this year, but eventually you got to take a quarterback. But you got 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. You better hit on 4 of those, and that's tough to do. Or Glenn's probably gone after this year. We'll get into that. I know you don't like Aaron Glenn, but if Muji doesn't have these next 2 drafts, then he'll be gone.
Yeah, I mean, look, beyond just the 5 ones over the next 2 years, this year alone, Zach, they got 4 picks in the top 44. I mean, you could do real damage rebuilding your team if you hit on 2 and 16 and 33 is a really high pick. It's the first pick of round 2. It's almost an extension of the first round, then pick 44 as well. So they have a lot of resources. Over the next 2 years, they have more salary cap space than just about any team in the league with the draft pick. So, they're set up, head coach aside, they're set up to really rebuild this roster. And that's why, what they do at 2, maybe in another year you wouldn't take Downs, but you take Downs at 2 and then you come around at pick 16 and take Mekhi Lemon or take Sonny Styles or take another stud premier defensive player that's there. You could really set your team up. I think you have to really just make sure you're getting damn good football players with these picks for the reasons you outlined.
All right, let's go into the Jake Asman show. Let's say it's draft night. At 2, they take whoever. Then 16 comes around. The commissioner walks out there and he goes, with the 16th pick in the 2026 NFL draft, the New York Jets select Ty Simpson, quarterback, Alabama. Your reaction, go.
We're booing, Zach. I don't know if you can hear me. We're booing through it. I mean, I would be so disgusted if the Jets did that for a myriad of reasons. The biggest is I don't trust this coaching staff to properly develop a quarterback. Ty Simpson's made 15 career starts. If you look at the history of first-round quarterbacks that have been taken with less than 20 starts since 2011, it's just Cam Newton who really had true success with the team that drafted him. So that's the first thing. The second thing is everyone says that Ty Simpson needs to sit and develop. I don't know if he has that opportunity with the New York Jets. They got off to a bad start with, Marcus Mariota or Kirk Cousins, whoever their veteran is that they have. They're going to go to the rookie before he's ready. That's just what happens in the NFL, especially when a coach is trying to save his job and playing the rookie and hoping he shows something might be the way to get another year. I just don't think Ty would be set up for success. And say they do actually give him this year of development. Well, how many games are you winning next year? And then you got a new coach coming in. You got the 3 first-rounders in 2027 where you're set up in a much better quarterback class. Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, Lenoris Sellers. Obviously, Dante Moore could be a factor a year from now after going back to school. I just don't think it makes sense for the Jets to do it. They got to find a way to win games, show competency, and earn the right, if you're Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, to take that big swing at quarterback in 2027. Doing it with Ty Simpson at 16, I just think you'd be setting the kid up for failure, and he wouldn't be the guy a year from now anyway, in my mind.
Were you devastated when Dante Moore said he was going back to Oregon?
I was thrilled. I thought it was great because, again, for the same reasons I don't want Ty, you could say very similar things about Dante Moore. He's only made 20 career starts. He's a guy that clearly needs some development. He said it himself. And whether or not he did it to avoid the Jets or not, I think financially he's going to end up regretting that decision. But from a Jet standpoint, I think most Jet fans I've spoken to were aligned in saying this team's not ready to draft the quarterback second overall. It feels like a Zach Wilson situation all over again. They need to build their team and prove that they have the right coach and coaching staff in place now to do that for a young quarterback going forward. It's drafting Dante Moore. Very similar things I just said about Ty Simpson, I think apply for him as well.
Jake Asman, when you look at who you think your opening day quarterback is going to be when week 1 does roll around in September, what's your best educated guess right now?
I have a weird feeling they're going to trade for someone. It's not going to be Mac Jones. Like I've seen some speculate. I can see Jacoby Brissett being the guy they bring in, kind of replicate a situation where you have him as the veteran. Maybe they sign a guy who's a little younger who might have some sort of upside. The name to watch, I'll throw 2 names at you, Sam Howell or Will Levis, guys who were, thought to be maybe full of potential, but it hadn't panned out. So those are the 2 quote unquote vets you have. And then, you go out there and you take a chance on day 3 or day 2 of the draft with Garrett Nussmeier or one of those quarterbacks who doesn't go round 1 or round 2, but it's just there. Cole Payton from North Dakota State. Taylor Green from Arkansas, someone like that I could see, being a guy the Jets add to the room. And it's almost like the Giants quarterback room from a year ago where you had the 2 veterans and then they made the move for Dart. I don't think the Jets would make the move in the first round for the quarterback, but I could see them taking a quarterback with one of their 2 second-round picks, or maybe if they move out of one of their second-round picks, Zach, they acquire a third-round pick, which they don't have, and they do it in that round.
I think you'll call me crazy for this, and I would have called myself crazy for it if I said it a week ago, but actually giving it more thought and then seeing it projected, I don't think it's crazy. With only 2 years left on that contract for Kyler Murray, and I don't like his attitude at times. There's work ethic problems. He's been banged up, and he hasn't reached his full potential. But if it's Jacoby Brissett or if it's like Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr, if you could trade a 4th-round pick for Kyler Murray, wouldn't you take that risk if you're the Jets?
Here's the issue with that, though, right? You're taking on his contract, which is enormous. If you could bring in Kyler Murray for nothing, if he's released because they can't find a trade partner, okay, you bring in Kyler Murray and maybe someone else, and then you kind of have a competition there. Just handing Kyler Murray the job when, to your point, he's been banged up. You question whether or not he's all in on football. He's the only quarterback I've ever seen that had a clause in his extension that he had to study film. So there's just some things that concern me. Plus, he's 5'10", and anyone you talk to about what Frank Reich, the new OC, wants in a quarterback, he wants a quarterback who's at least 6'2" and weighs a certain amount, and that's not Kyler Murray. Now, you could say, well, Frank Reich had Bryce Young. He did, but that didn't go so well until Frank Reich, of course, was fired in the middle of that season. So I just don't think it's a great fit for the Jets. If they're just betting on talent and that's the move, okay, but I wouldn't trust Kyler Murray to stay healthy. Playing on the MetLife turf concerns me. There's just a lot there that I think would be concerning if you're the Jets.
I look at Aaron Glenn, and I understand why the Jet fan was excited when they made the hire. He's one of their own, and he was a coach that was established as a defensive coordinator, so I could understand the sentiment. But here are the 2 things I couldn't stand with him in his first year. He was acting like he was Belichick at the podium before he even won a game. And then also, like you said, you're this defensive-minded genius. Your team couldn't get an interception all year. I know you wanted him gone. I agree. They should have won and done him. Like, look at my team. I don't love firing a coach after 1 year. You knew Gerard Mayo wasn't the guy. You get rid of Gerard Mayo. Boom, you get Mike Vrabel. I'm not saying the Jets would have been in the Super Bowl, but look at the drastic improvement that the Patriots have. Your point of contention with Glenn is what?
Well, I mean, I just don't think you could point to one thing he does really well as a head coach. It's like become a meme on Jets Twitter. But seriously, like I asked Jet fans who try to defend him, what do you say are his strengths of a coach? I mean, when he was asked for some of the positives of the season, Zach, he lamented the fact that they didn't have a kick that was blocked all year on field goals. I mean, that like you're really grasping at straws when you win 3 games, and that's one of the positives you're coming up with. I think the team quit on him at the end of the year. The defense was terrible. He was supposed to be a guy that was going to hire a great coaching staff. That's what Mike Tannenbaum said when he recommended him. He said he'd hire a great staff. That's what the Jets were putting out there. And him and Hugh Jackson are the only coaches over the last 25 years that fired their coordinators after just a year. I mean, you have 10 of the 21 assistants from last season that have been replaced. So I can't point to anything he does well. He didn't call plays on defense. Maybe that gets better now that he's doing it. It can't be worse than what we saw with Steve Wilkes, but he wasn't that great in Detroit. There was one really impressive year, his last year there, where he did a good job as the DC. It's tough to find anything that you could say, yep, well, at least we have this. He's great at designing this, or guys are playing hard for him, or he made great staffing hires. You could point to one great hire. The special teams coordinator, Chris Banjo, was awesome. That's about it. So that to me is my biggest thing. It's like, what exactly does he do well as a coach that you could point to? For all the issues Robert Saleh had, for example, at least we saw real player development on defense. At least we saw a defense that was competitive. He won 7 games, 2 straight years with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Joe Flacco, Mike White, Trevor Siemian as his quarterback. It's just tough to sit here and really find anything to grasp onto with Aaron Glenn.
You're unapologetically yourself, which is a great thing and what you need to be in this business. But sometimes when you get surrounded, I'm not saying you do this, I'm actually giving you a compliment here. So I know it's going to sound bad at first, but sometimes when people get surrounded by people that make decisions, or that when they interview people, they're not as outspoken as they are if that person's not there. You're doing a weekly radio show in football season with Mike Tannenbaum. You can't stand Aaron Glenn. He's the guy that hired him. What was that dynamic like? Because I saw some of the clips, and to your credit, you didn't hold back at all.
Yeah, I mean, look, I pride myself on being authentic, much like you, Zach, and that's what I've always really respected about the career you've had. I just try to call it how it is, right? Like at the end of the day, what I love about radio the most is that you don't have to be like unbiased, right? You get to still be a fan. Like we love sports talk radio, and now this platform here that I have on YouTube and what you're doing now with 365, you get to be a fan. You get to give opinions. I try to be a knowledgeable fan, but I got to be honest. And if I'm going to be really critical on my YouTube show or on radio shows that I'm doing of Aaron Glenn, and then I do a weekly show with the guy who helped recommend him, and I don't say the same thing, I'm being disingenuous. I'm not being honest with the audience. So it was a little awkward at times. I happen to like Mike a lot. I think he's a really good guy. Sometimes we'd get into it, it'd get heated, but at the end of the day, when we talked about topics that weren't the Jets, we were talking Giants or previewing the big games that day, the show went really well. So there were some moments where there was some tension, and it made for some, I thought, entertaining radio. But at the end of the day, Mike has his opinion, I have mine, and I thought it made a really good show.
When you get to Breece Hall, are they going to franchise tag him? That's what it seemed like the talk was in the last day or two.
So I'd be surprised if they just let him walk for nothing. I think the debate is, do you either extend him, or which type of franchise tag do you use? You could use the transition tag, which is a little less than what the franchise tag would cost, but there's different arguments for each one. I would be surprised if they just let him walk, though, because they had reportedly a 4th-round pick on the table at the trade deadline, and they chose to not take it. They said either make it a 3rd. This was Kansas City, I believe, as the team. And the Chiefs said nope. So they just kept Breece. And then the way Darren Muji spoke about Breece at the end of the season press conference, he was talking about Breece as if he was going to be on the team in 2026. So just based off that and not anything publicly changing to my knowledge, I think he's going to be on the team. He might not be thrilled that he's tagged and not extended, but that's in the CBA. It's the Jets' right to do it. And I think they have so many other holes. Why not just keep Breece, who had over 1,000 yards and is a good player, keep him around for another season and figure it out then?
I had a similar conversation about the Raiders. And it's like, all right, you're building from the ground up, which is not foreign territory for either of those franchises. But it's like, all right, who are your pieces that you're building with? And for the Raiders, obviously, it's going to be Mendoza. You got Genti. You got Bowers. We'll see what happens with Max Crosby. Colton Miller's going to be a player there. Like outside of Garrett Wilson and, Breece Hall, running backs are expendable. And I do tend to agree that they're going to try to keep him back because then you would have traded him by the deadline. Like, who are your Jets players? Not that you view as untouchable, but that you feel confident about building with for the future with this team?
What's ironic about their team, Zach, they actually have a really good offensive line. And typically teams like the Raiders, for example, their O-line's horrible. Like the Jets were bad with a good O-line, which is like almost impossible to fathom, but that's life as a fan of the Jets. They have two really good offensive tackles. Their first round pick from a year ago was arguably, their best player on the team for a lot of weeks. And Armand Membu, he was awesome at right tackle. Olu Fashanu from Penn State, he was a first round pick 2 years ago. He really did a nice job in his second season, looked like an ascending player for sure. Joe Tippmann, their center/guard, who moved over to guard this year because AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker, went down on the Tuesday before week 1. So he slid over to guard and looked really good. You look at their line, you got 3, I think, foundational pieces there that you feel good about. So I think you have Garrett. If they bring back Brees, he's another name, and you feel good about the line. And there's some other nice pieces, but I think if you're a Jet fan trying to find some positives, you have Garrett, you have the good O-line. Let's say they keep Brees. Mason Taylor looked pretty good as a rookie and limited opportunities at tight end. He should be better in year 2. It's not actually the worst starting point for any quarterback they bring in. It's just the questions about the coach, the defensive issues, all that. But I think you feel pretty good about the offensive line going into another season with that group together.
I can't stand Derek Carr. He's just one of those players for some reason I just never have liked. And a lot of it is the woe is me and the drama stuff. And now he's on his podcast one day saying how much he loves the Jets fan and loves Aaron Glenn. The next day, I'm only going to play if I go to a team that wins a Super Bowl. Like, buddy, you haven't ever won a playoff game in your career. I don't really think after a year away you're entitled to make these demands. Can you see Carr happening? Because a lot of times players say they want to win a Super Bowl and they go to a destination where it's like, okay, you're not going to win a Super Bowl there.
I could see it happening. And I agree with you. I thought it was laughable that he's like, I'm only coming out if I'm going to go to a team that's ready to win. Like, okay, so you want to be a backup for, Matthew Stafford next year? Like, there's not that many opportunities for Derek Carr to go to a team where they're like, yep, we're a Derek Carr away from winning a Super Bowl. So if he wants to play, yes, I think the Jets could make some sense for him. And, they could protect him. He's had injuries in the past. We just talked about the Jet O-line. He's not my favorite option. And for some of the things you said, I agree. But, I mean, look, beggars can't be choosers. The options out there, they're not great in the draft and in free agency. That's why these guys are available in the first place. But, yeah, if Derek Carr thinks that any team's going to sign him that's going to have a chance to win a ring, I mean, he's a little delusional there.
I know it's so early. We haven't even done the combine yet. There hasn't been a draft. There hasn't been free agency. Do you think, though, Aaron Glenn will make it through the season coming up in 2026?
Do I think he makes it through the season? I'll say yes. I'm not overly confident in that because if they get off to a terrible start and their schedule, at least on paper, and we know things change, is not exactly the easiest in the world when you look at their opponents. But I'll say yes, only from this standpoint. I don't think they're going to be very good, but I think Woody Johnson knows that if he fires another coach in season, it just continues to kind of feed the narrative of how dysfunctional the Jets are. And while he probably would be justified if he did it, especially if the Jets start 0-7 again for the second year in a row, I think the fact that they didn't fire Adam Gase at the end of that second year, they knew he was dead coach walking. If they give Glenn the year, you can move off easily after 2 years. And, there's not going to be 10 openings in the league next year. The Jets, with their 3 first-round picks, a lot of cap space, maybe an opportunity to draft the top quarterback a year from now or get one of the top quarterbacks. I think it would be a relatively attractive job among the openings. So I think Woody maybe keeps Glenn, doesn't try and do anything that would make the Jets look dysfunctional and potentially hurt the reputation further of being able to get Mike Tomlin or Sean McDermott or Shane Steichen, Kevin O'Connor, whoever the top guys are a year from now that we're talking about.
Just to swoop back in, and then we'll let you run, Jake Asman. Rodgers, do you think he's going to pull a Favre and eventually find his way to Minnesota this offseason, or do you think he's back with the Steelers? And how about Robert Saleh landing in Tennessee and bringing in Dable as his OC?
So I think Rodgers is going to play, and he's going to play for McCarthy for one more year. If I were him personally, I think he should retire. I don't think anything good could happen of coming back for another year. He made the playoffs. It didn't end poorly with his Jet run, 10-7, made it back to the postseason. I thought that was a decent way to go out at age 42, but I think he's going to want to play again for McCarthy. So I think that's going to happen there. And as far as Saleh, I'm kind of mixed on Saleh. I could see a scenario where it works out. The OC hire was so important for him. I think getting Brian Dable is encouraging. We'll see if they could turn Cam Ward into something, because that's really what it comes down to. I have no doubt Saleh will get that defense fixed and they'll be a lot better there. But it really comes down to the quarterback. And because Saleh, he's not going to help you elevate anything on offense. So it's all about the OC hire and his quarterback. If Cam Ward hits, I think he could be successful. If Cam Ward doesn't hit, he's going to struggle and he's not going to last more than a couple seasons.
You can check him out on YouTube. He's the host of the Jake Asman Show. Also, you can check him out if you're in the New York area locally on ESPN New York. Jake, appreciate you previewing the Jets with us. Thank you.
Anytime, Zach. We'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
There he is, Jake Asman joining us, and I am caught up in this USA hockey game as Hillary Nutt. It was 1-0 with 2 minutes left. She scored a goal, which is a record-breaking goal, by the way. Most goals ever for USA, so that's now 1-1. It is in overtime, and we will see how it does finish, as there's been some opportunities for the Canadians up against USA. So hopefully the women do take home gold, and tomorrow we will have the men that will be going in the semifinal after their exhilarating overtime victory yesterday up against Quinn Hughes. Obviously, a lot of us want to see the gold medal matchup, America up against Canada on Sunday. All righty, good show today. Big thanks, Charles Huff. Big thanks to Jake Asman. Big thanks to Garrett Ross. Big thanks to Andrew Valade. Big thanks to each and every one of you. We will talk to you tomorrow on a Friday, right at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. The Zach Gelb Show on 365 Sports, Monday to Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. YouTube.com/@365SportsYT. Subscribe. And you get at me on Twitter and Instagram at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, and also on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. We will talk tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.